My name is Aaron. I'm from Detroit, Michigan. Growing up, I always felt a little bit different, and I was also more of an introvert. So I didn't have a lot of friends. I was friendly with people, but not like a lot of close friends, not a lot of best friends. And with me being more of an introvert and being like super protected by my mother as well, she ended up being like my best friend. The one negative to our relationship is that the way my mother oftentimes expresses love is for her to be very directive as to how she feels like you should be and how you should act and how you should talk. And I've always been a person where even if I don't like outwardly say I don't agree, I'm gonna passively disagree, which means I'm just not gonna do it. So as I got older and older, I kind of fell more into that, which caused the issue in our relationship because I became more passive aggressive, and then she became more aggressive, to the point where I became more aggressive, and then we just had more and more friction in our relationship. As I got older, like I would say 16 or 17, like I would just start to avoid interacting with her, and then with me not interacting as much, then she became even more like aggressive with trying to connect because she felt the relationship was changing. At that point in time, I thought I was bisexual, but I was comfortable telling her that I was bisexual or gay or anything other than heterosexual. Even though I feel like she always had an inclination. So she was the person that actually took me to see Tu Wong Fu in the movie theater to watch that movie, and she loved that movie, and me being an awkward kid actually ran out of the movie because I didn't know what was going on with what I was feeling, what I was saying. By the time it was like time for me to go to college, I couldn't wait to go. And I think that it made her even more fearful because with me going, I think she wondered like what would our relationship be like, because if we're already not as close as we were, is this going to be like another loss? The first 1 or 2 years, we communicated, but we didn't communicate. It wasn't, I feel like it wasn't as fulfilling on like my side just because I kind of closed up even more. So it's kind of like I felt like I couldn't be as open because I felt like whatever I would be sharing with her, she would be more hypercritical of. I got to, 18, 19, 20. I had some different experiences. The first best friend I actually met when I moved to college was actually a lesbian. And I, at that point in time, really still wasn't clear as to, who I was in that way. And I definitely wasn't comfortable saying I was unclear of who I was in that way. But my friend kind of thankfully made it very comfortable where I was able to tell her that I was bisexual and eventually, gay, or at least I told her I think I'm bisexual. So went through years, experiences, and it got to, I was 20 years old, and it was one of my introduction to social work classes, and we had like a project we had to do where essentially for the project we had to put together like a poster board, a presentation as to who we were, and then who we wanted to become, in life and in the field and stuff like that. So as part of my board, I was gonna put on there like that I was gay. I think it was a rainbow flag or like a rainbow heart or unicorn or something. But it was essentially signifying that I'm gay. And then I was doing the project, but I was like so conflicted with it because I was like, I want to do this, I want to show who I am, but in a way it was like it was uncomfortable, or I felt like it was like almost a betrayal because I was like, I'm about to go tell a whole group of strangers who I am, but I'm actually not telling the people that I'm close to who I am. And I felt like that was one of the blockades that like my mother and I had in our relationship. And I remember I was in my dining room and I was like, you know what, I'm just gonna call her and tell her. This has like been one of the elephants in the room for like years, if not, years and years way before I even knew, had a more clarity as to what was going on. So I like called her and I was like, it was just usual like, oh, hey ma, how are you doing? It's just like, oh, hey, everything's fine, blah, blah, blah. And then it was just like, I said to her, it's like, okay, so, and then it was just a long pause and she was like, okay, yeah. So what is it? What's the problem? What's going on? And then it was just like another pause. And then I think she started to get anxious. I ended up coming out and I told her that, hey mom, so I'm gay. And it was a long pause, a very long pause where I think I was like, hello, are you still there? So she was like, yeah, I'm here. So, and she was like, okay, so what makes you think you're gay? And I was like, well, it's just like feelings I've had. It's things I've been thinking, it's not like it's brand new. It's something I've been experiencing, for like years and years now. And she was like, okay, so have you done stuff? How do you know? And I was like, no, it's just a feeling I have. And she asked, had I been with women before? I was like, no, I haven't. I don't really want to be with women. Um, and then she was just talking like, oh, A, I don't know, because my nickname is A. And she's like, oh, I don't know. Like, I don't know how this happened. Like, and then it was like another pause. And then she was like, did I do something wrong? Like, did I mess up? And I was like, no, you didn't do anything wrong. Like you did, everything right, which was in your ability to do. So, we talked for a little bit more and we ended the conversation. And when we ended the conversation, I feel like it was just like a huge weight off my shoulders. Like it was like like one of the walls in between us having like the kind of close relationship that I wanted to have, or closer relationship, was like removed, where we were actually more able to like openly communicate. It didn't change anything in our relationship. It just changed things for the better. So in me coming out to my mom and, telling her who I was and what I was feeling, it made it easier to come out to my grandmother, and it made it easier to talk to my other family. It made it easier to, go in front of the class for that project and tell, the 20, 25 people in the class that, I was gay and I was happy to be gay and happy to be myself. Years later, I met somebody new who's now my fiance. As soon as she met him, she liked him, and she said that. So it's to the point now where, we've been together my fiance and I have been together for about almost 6 years now. And every time I talk to her, she asks about him. How is he doing? So she still is very like protective, but it's kind of like she's become some open where it's like she's not only protective of me, she's like protective of him as well. I would say for anybody struggling with honesty, like being honest with themselves or being honest with other people, I would say really like ask yourself why you're feeling the need not to be honest. And I would tell that person, even though it may be uncomfortable, it may be, make you feel insecure, you might feel some pain, you're going to feel better by expressing yourself. The most intense kind of pain you're going to feel and experience is hiding yourself from other people, and it's going to be even more painful if you hide yourself from yourself. So you have to, accept yourself, love yourself, support yourself. And even when you don't always believe it, you have to tell yourself that, I'm going to be okay. Things will be okay no matter what. And then, express that to other people as well.